July 19, 2026. MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Spain have just beaten Argentina 1-0 in extra time. The World Cup final is over. The trophy ceremony has begun. The FIFA presenter walks to the microphone to announce the Golden Ball, the best player of the tournament. The stadium, still full, still electric after one of the tightest final matches in recent World Cup history, waits. The name is announced, Rodri, and immediately, almost before the word is finished, the MetLife Stadium begins to sing. Not in celebration, in protest. Thousands of Argentine supporters, tens of thousands of people in an 82,000-seat stadium, begin chanting the name of the man they believe should be holding that trophy. Messi, Messi, Messi. Rodri walks to the stage. He holds a golden ball. An entire stadium is singing another man's name. And this is the image that defines this video. Not the trophy, not the name announced. The gap between the name that was announced and the name that echoed off the walls of the most expensive stadium in the Western Hemisphere. Because that gap, that distance between the decision and the reaction, is the oldest question in football. And today, on July 19, 2026, it has been asked again, in the loudest possible way. What is the best player of a tournament when the best player has no number that proves it? Let's start with the scoreboard, because the scoreboard is where the argument begins. Rodri won the Golden Ball with 0 goals and 0 assists across 8 matches. He completed 101 of 105 passes in the final. He posted 92.9% passing accuracy across the tournament, made 22 tackles, 34 recoveries, and 11 clearances. He was the tournament's leader in completed passes, and in passes that broke defensive lines. He was the reason Spain conceded just 1 goal in 8 matches. Spain won every game. They won the World Cup. And their captain, who did not score once and did not assist once, was named the best player of the competition. On the other side of the scoreboard, Messi had 8 goals and 4 assists, 12 direct contributions to Argentina's 19 goals in the tournament. At 39 years old, playing in what is almost certainly his final World Cup, the greatest player of his generation led Argentina to the final from midfield, from wide positions, from wherever the game needed him to be. 8 goals, 4 assists, 12 direct contributions, 0 trophies. The tournament's individual numbers belong to Messi. The tournament's trophy belongs to Spain. The Golden Ball went to the man who controlled the space between those two realities. And the stadium chose a side. Before we argue about what the right decision was, and this video is not going to make that argument, there's a sentence that changes the entire frame of this story. It was said in 2024, before the ACL injury, before the recovery, before the World Cup, before the final, before the stadium chanted, Rodri was sitting with Joe Hart on BBC Sports YouTube channel, discussing his chances of winning the 2024 Ballon d'Or. He said this, "The role I play is more defensive than offensive. What the fans love about football is scoring goals and assists. I think because of this, the decision always revolves around strikers and wingers." He said that in 2024. He won the Ballon d'Or 2024 anyway, with 0 goals in the Champions League final, in a career that had always been built on something the Ballon d'Or had never previously rewarded a holding midfielder for. He predicted the controversy. He experienced it. He won. Then, he tore his ACL against Arsenal in September 2024. He missed 8 months of football. He came back in May 2025. He went to the World Cup. He played 8 matches. He scored 0 goals. He won the Golden Ball. And the stadium chanted Messi's name while he held it. He had predicted this moment 2 years before it happened. And it happened exactly as he said it would. That is the turning point. Not today's award. The 2024 sentence. The man who won the most debated individual award in football history twice, once in club football, once in international football, predicted the debate before he lived through it, and then lived through it twice anyway. Here is the tactical reality that makes this debate genuinely hard to resolve, and not just philosophically. Guardiola, when asked to describe what Rodri means to Manchester City, did not reach for statistics. He said, internally all teammates and staff, they all know how important and decisive he is. Massively important for us. With him we are a better team. No doubt. The amount of things that he helps to do, he is irreplaceable right now, I would say. Irreplaceable. The most analytically sophisticated manager in the history of football, the man who built his philosophy on positional play and data, described his most important player as irreplaceable. Not the most efficient, not the highest rated, not the best XG contributor. Irreplaceable. What does irreplaceable mean in a measurable sense? In the 2024-25 Champions League season, City conceded an average of 0.73 goals per game with Rodri starting. Without him, across the matches he missed through injury, they conceded 1.52. More than double. For Spain at this World Cup, 1 goal conceded in 8 matches, including the final, in which Rodri completed 101 of 105 passes, won 80% of his duels, and created 2 chances. The absence of goals and assists in Rodri's record is not a hole in his contribution. It is, in a specific sense, evidence of it. Spain's defensive record across this tournament, 1 goal in 8 matches against opponents including Germany, France, and Argentina, is produced by a system in which Rodri functions as the central pillar. Remove him, and the system becomes a different system. How do you put a number on that? You can count the goals you didn't concede. You cannot easily attribute them to one player. That is why the debate exists. And that is why it will keep existing. Lionel Messi was 39 years old at this tournament. He had 8 goals and 4 assists. He was directly responsible for 12 of Argentina's 19 goals across 8 matches. Let's be honest about what that represents. A 39-year-old, in sport where pace and physical intensity determine outcomes at elite level, where most outfield players are considered past their peak by 32, was the most directly productive attacking player at a 48-team World Cup. Not among the best. The most directly productive. Sky Sports post-final data analysis noted that across the key attacking metrics, goals, assists, big chances created through balls, Messi did not stand out to the same degree as Rodri in defensive metrics, but across the measurables most fans use to evaluate individual performance, Messi and Mbappe outperformed Rodri significantly. The argument for Messi is not sentimental, is specific. He scored 8 goals. He assisted 4. He led Argentina to the final at 39. He may never play another World Cup. If the golden ball is for the player who most directly determined the outcomes of matches through individual intervention, Messi has the stronger case by the traditional definition. The argument against Messi is equally specific. Argentina lost the final 1-0 to a Spain team organized around a player who didn't score. The best defensive record in World Cup history, Spain's 1 goal in 8 matches, was built on a player who didn't create goals. He prevented the ones that would have lost Spain the tournament. Which contribution was more valuable? The 8 goals that took Argentina to the final they ultimately lost? Or the defensive control that meant Spain never needed more than 1 goal to win a game? The stadium chose Messi. The voters chose Rodri. Both choices are defensible. Neither is obviously wrong. Here is the layer of the story that gets buried under the debate about Messi. 8 months ago, Rodri was on a treatment table at Manchester City's training ground, having ruptured his right ACL. He had torn it in September 2024 against Arsenal. He had been, at the moment of the injury, the Ballon d'Or favorite, the Euro 2024 player of the tournament, the holding midfielder who was rewriting what the position meant in elite football. And then nothing. 8 months of rehabilitation. 8 months of watching football from the outside. He became just the 11th player in history to win the World Cup, the Champions League, and the Ballon d'Or. He accomplished the third of those achievements while the second was a collective memory, and the first had not yet happened. When Rodri received the golden ball tonight, he spoke. He didn't talk about Messi. He didn't deflect or minimize. He said what he meant. I'm proud and I would love for new generations to see that it is possible. That a player who touches the sky and then plummets to hell is also capable of rising again. Touches the sky and then plummets to hell. That is not the language of a player who received a comfortable award. That is the language of someone who spent 8 months wondering whether what he had been before the injury was what he would be after it. He came back. He won a World Cup. He won a golden ball in a stadium chanting another man's name. The recovery story and the award controversy are the same story. The player who plummets to hell receives his greatest honor in a moment that a stadium of 82,000 people is actively contesting. That is not a diminishment. That is the complete picture. Here is the philosophical question at the center of this story, and is the one Rodri himself raised in 2024 without fully resolving it. He said the decision always revolves around strikers and wingers because that is what fans love. Goals and assists. The visible interventions. The moments that cameras find and replays replay and arguments begin. And then he won the Ballon d'Or 2024. And then he won the World Cup Golden Ball 2026. Sky Sports, in their 2024 Ballon d'Or analysis, noted that Rodri was a different kind of award winner, that his wins represented something the award had not previously rewarded consistently. The player whose contribution is defined by what does not happen, as much as what does. The Ballon d'Or has historically been won by attacking players. The exceptions, Cannavaro in 2006, Matthias Sammer in 1996, Lev Yashin in 1963, are so rare that they are treated as historical anomalies rather than patterns. Rodri has now won 2 major individual awards, Ballon d'Or 2024, World Cup Golden Ball 2026, without scoring in either of the events they were awarded for. He has forced a system built to reward goals and assists to reward something it was never designed to measure. That is either a correction, the system finally recognizing that defensive contribution and positional control deserve the same weight as goals and assists, or an overcorrection. A decision, made because the winning team wanted to reward its best player and couldn't find a different way to do it. Sky Sports framed it directly. The argument can certainly be made that the best team were awarded the best player award rather than the actual best player. That sentence will be quoted in football discussions for years. And Rodri, who predicted in 2020 that the decision always revolves around strikers and wingers, has now won it twice without being a striker or a winger. At some point, the question stops being whether Rodri deserved it. The question becomes, what did the system decide it was measuring, and when did it decide that? Here is the moment the video has been building toward. Not the trophy, not the goals column, the stadium. When Rodri's name was announced, 82,000 people reacted immediately. Thousands of them, the ones who had come to watch Messi's final World Cup, who had watched 8 goals and 4 assists and a 39-year-old defy everything the sport believes about age, chanted the name of the man who didn't receive the trophy. Rodri heard it. He walked to the stage. He held the trophy. In 2024, before any of this happened, he had said, what the fans love about football is scoring goals and assists. I think because of this, the decision always revolves around strikers and wingers. He said it as though he was describing a reality he accepted, a system he understood, even if he thought it was incomplete. A system that would most likely continue to favor the goal scorers. And then it didn't. Twice. The stadium chanting Messi's name is not a verdict on Rodri's quality. It is evidence that the gap between what football's individual awards measure and what football's audiences value has not been closed. Rodri winning the Golden Ball did not resolve that gap. It made it visible. He said in 2024 that he knew the decision would revolve around strikers and wingers. He was describing the system accurately. And then the system, twice, chose him anyway. That is not resolution. That is a more complicated version of the same unresolved question. Go back to the MetLife Stadium. July 19th, 2026. Rodri on the stage, trophy in hand, the chant filling the building. He had described this moment 2 years before it happened. Not this specific moment, not the stadium, not the trophy, not the chant, but the structure of it. The tension between what the fans love and what the award ultimately measures. He had identified the gap and then walked straight into it twice and won both times. I'm proud and I would love for new generations to see that is possible. That a player who touches the sky and then plummets to hell is also capable of rising again. It is an example of overcoming adversity, and you have to believe. Honestly, it's incredible. Messi had 8 goals and 4 assists and 39 years of the most decorated individual career in football history. He played his last World Cup and reached the final and lost 1-0 and received the silver ball while a stadium chanted his name for a different reason. Rodri had 0 goals, 0 assists, 92.9% passing accuracy, 22 tackles, 34 recoveries, 1 goal conceded by the team he anchored across 8 matches. He tore his ACL in September 2024. He came back in May 2025. He lifted the World Cup trophy and then lifted the Golden Ball while 82,000 people sang someone else's name. The question this video was always asking is this: what is the best player of a tournament when the best player has no number that proves it? The answer tonight was Rodri. The stadium disagreed. Football has not resolved this. It is unlikely to, but Rodri predicted it. Both times. And both times the system adapted to him rather than the other way around. Here is the question I want to leave you with. Not, did Rodri deserve it? That debate is already everywhere. This one if football's individual awards are genuinely changing. If a holding midfielder can win the Ballon d'Or and the World Cup Golden Ball with 0 goals, has the measure of individual excellence changed, or has the measure always been wrong, and we're only now correcting it? Tell me in the comments. don't have a clean answer. I don't think Rodri does either, but he's been asking it longer than most.